struggled to survive. And the COVID situation is going to make it worse. We've seen organizations retrenching. So post-COVID, they shall be gnashing of teeth. A lot of organizations shall collapse. And the future does not look bright if we don't then come up with different ways of supporting ourselves. So we are saying that mostly you find that donors were supporting organizations that are dealing with media freedom, accountability. But we have to agree that donors also have a criteria in funding. So they also, those outweigh your developmental motive. Donors will not come to you because you are so passionate about Rwanda. Yes, they will if their priority is also Zimbabwe. So we need to understand the broader objective of the donors. What is the focus area? And if we are not careful as well to say what is our area, this is why I find that today the organization is dealing with human rights and good governance. Tomorrow they are humanitarian. The next day they are, climate change. The next day they are a church, because they are following a donor money. So you need to ask yourself as an organization, what am I representing? What are my objectives? What is it that I want? And then you model your business around your objectives and look for organizations that create a synergy with you. So you find that if you are into democracy and good governance, and there are donors that look at democracy and good governance, then it becomes easier for you to work with them, and because you have similar ideas and you can work easily. The other thing that is that the majority of people are donor funded. And there is no harm in being donor funded because it is a business model on its own. But what I want to emphasize is that if you are donor funded, try to make sure that we have quite a number of donors. Try to make sure that you are working within your means. Over the years, I've seen organizations, expanding too much to their downfall. I've seen organizations objectives that they say they're going to do and losing that funding. I've seen organizations abusing the donor funding that they would have been given and failing to deliver on what they say they'll do. I've seen organizations, failing to, use those opportunities whilst they still have the attention of the donors to create networks, to diversify their portfolios of funding. So you need to say to yourself at the beginning of the year, this year, how much money do we need? And we say we are needing 100,000. Where can we get the 100,000? Good. But if you can have 10 donors that give you 10,000 each, the better. And also, if you are looking for donor funding, always try to look for long-term funding. Yes, we are going to have funding that is 6 months. Yes, we are going to have funding that is a year. But also try and mix that with funding that is 2 years, 3 years, long-term funding. Because if you have a grant that is 3 years, you can plan to say, in the next 3 years, this is what we're going to do. So a mixture of long-term grants and short-term grants would actually make your organization a bit financially healthier. But always keep in mind that there's a time when that donor funding is not going to be there. And ask yourself that what happens when this donor funding is no longer there? So for those who, while I'm talking, if you have questions, if you have issues, I'm going to give you at the end of my sermon, I'm going to give you a platform to comment, and I'm also going to, so if you have something that crosses your mind, just go to chat and put it down. Then after this presentation, I'll go back. I think that will make our life easier. So I'll start looking at the type of funding and the type of, the different funding models that we have and different fundraising plans that we can have. So the first one that I'm talking about is private funding for independent media. So media startups can obtain, like I've said, the majority of their funds from grants. So these organizations usually operate in countries where there's less freedom of press, or they give you a grant to say, we want you to do a program on promoting freedom of speech. We want you to create awareness on the Constitution of Zimbabwe. So you always apply for a specific fund, which is a specific objective. and objectives. And you need to then, when you get the money, implement that area. So donors are more likely to give grants to media organizations which are emphasize on accountability, promoting an open society, just about that. But also, we private organizations actually fund a lot. And I was giving an example here of Al Jazeera. That Al Jazeera network started off from private funding. It's quite interesting. The Emir, what do you call it? It's called the Emir of Qatar gave Al Jazeera $150 million to start Al Jazeera. And we know that today Al Jazeera is one of the biggest networks across the globe. Because they were saying, no, we are tired of the American narrative. We are tired of the Western narrative, the BBCs, the CNNs. We also want to hear something from the Middle East. And I can tell you that because of Al Jazeera, no one can ignore the Middle East now. We now know a lot of the Middle East. Al Jazeera have brought a different feel to how news is covered. It is different from the narratives of the BBC and the CNN. So that's what happens. And I know some of us have been beneficiaries of this private funding and open society. Looking at these figures around, there's a report that was saying that the Open Society Foundation run by George Soros, I think you remember George Soros from the ZANU-PF friends. Whenever there's a demonstration, they will say, we know George Soros and his partners. I think you now know George Soros. So they spend between 40 to 50 million in freedom of expression and media development. They fund quite a lot of the organizations, especially, we know that we have a lot of foundations, Open Society of Southern Africa, OSISA, we have OSIWA in East Africa, we have also another Open Society in West Africa, we have Open Society South Africa. So these guys, they are private, more like foundation. This is someone's money that is being used. But they're not the only ones. We also have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funding some media organizations, especially the ones that deal with health, and about $11 million supporting international media. Then we also have other foundations that include the Ford Foundation, MacArthur Foundation, Knight Foundation, Odmere Foundation, Frederick Stiftung, and all those foundations. They're the German foundations, the US Institute of Peace, the National Endowment for Democracy. These are organizations or private organizations that fund media. So if you decide to say, no, some of us, our organization wants to be donor funded, that is our business model that we're going to do, you then need to sit down and map the donors. List all the donors that you know. Try and find out who have offices in Zimbabwe, who are working in Zimbabwe, who are funding media in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in whatever country you are, now that we are talking about media participants from across Africa. So you need to know the donors that are operating in your area. Your USAID funds this, DFID funds this. Then you look for organizations that fund the area where you are. So if you are into good governance and democracy, if you are into freedom of expression, you then look for those organizations that are funding freedom of expression. And you then familiarize yourselves to say, at what point do they actually call for grants? Is it yearly? Is it monthly? You go to their website, you read it left, right, and center, inside out, to understand their objectives. What is it that they want to fund? Try and network with the people that work there, probably before you even put a proposal, to understand what kind of media, what kind of projects do they fund, what do they do, at what point do they accept. Once you have created that rapport, you have done your homework, you've done the networking, then you can sit down and read proposals. I mean, to write a proposal. Saying, we have put a call for proposal. they are going to give you money. They don't owe you anything. They actually, so it's not your money. They're just trying to, so they don't owe you the funding. It's not like it's a must that they should give you. So I've seen people, literally crying because they wrote a proposal and they were not responded to, or they did not get it, as if they were entitled to the money. So that sense of entitlement sometimes is too much. So, but also what you need to do is that you need to know that you're competing. Having, talked to a lot of all these donors, sometimes you find that people put a proposal, and I know Zimbabweans are good with proposal writing. And I've talked to people who say, we received 1,000 proposals and 700 of them are from Zimbabwe. So you then realize that these guys actually have a duty to then go through the proposals to read, to separate the grain from chaff. So if your proposal is chaff, take you serious. So you then need to take time. And this is what is learned through a time. You cannot be an expert in proposal writing in one day. There are proposals that we wrote 2-3 years ago, and you look back, you ask yourself, exactly what were we trying to do here? What were we saying? Because we were not even clear what we wanted to do. But you can only write a proposal when you know what you are supposed to do, when you know the direction in which you want to take your organization. So whenever you are writing a proposal, assume you are trying to solve a problem. And therefore ask yourself, what is the problem that I have? And how am I going to solve this problem? So the problem is water. Or the problem is we have a problem of diarrhea in our community. And we want to start a program where we are going to be educating people on the dangers of diarrhea and how they can prevent it. We're going to talk about cleanliness, blah, blah, blah. And this is how we're going to do it. And we're going to do A, B, C, D. And after having done that, at the end of where everyone is healthy, they have access to clean water. So those then become your goal, your objectives, your activities, your outcomes, your outputs, your impact. But if you just see a proposal and the deadline is tomorrow and you sit down and think that they're going to give you money, forget about it. So we need to know what we want to do. And whenever someone gets a proposal, even if they didn't know you, they need to read and understand. Even if they've never been to Cholocho, they've never been to Tanzania or Zambia, you need to take them there. You guys are radio people. So create that image when you're writing the proposal. Make them visit your area. Make them see the cause. Make them ask themselves, but why should we deny this person when they're so compelling? So it is the whole area about proposal writing, but it is also the whole area about knowing the donors that operate in your area and making sure that you actually do a donor mapping or scoping to know who's where. Because if you need to reach out, donors are not going to come to you. You need to reach. We think we can work together. But always, there is no harm in sending 10 proposals a month. You lose nothing by always having a proposal ready in every area. And when you see a call, you just put it in, you adjust it and you put it in. So it's like, you are taking your chances. So the higher number of proposals you write, the higher chances you're going to get. If you then write one proposal and expect to get money, it is problematic. So the ratio is always 1:10 at the beginning. So you're going to write 10 proposals and you're going to get one. And as you get experience, then your ratio also increases. There is no point, I don't think there's a time when you're going to have a 10 out of 10. It's very difficult. So there are always other people who are going to reject you, mainly because, it's not always because your proposal is not good. It is because maybe what you've written is not their focus area. Probably it's not what they want. Probably it's not what is in line with their objectives. So all those kind of things. Another plan or another or a funding model are loans, guarantees, and equity. So when I tried to look around, I found 3 organizations that have this model. There is the Media Development Loan Fund, there is the Southern Africa Development Fund, and there is the West African Media Development Fund. I guess they are the same people working in different regions. But basically what they do is that they have a revolving fund which provides low interest loans, sometimes leases or equity in independent media companies in development countries. So they'll come to you and say, you're Berina community radio station. Yes. Well, if you're a community radio station, I'm not sure whether they're going to then ask for equity because you're a community radio station. But if you're running an independent media organization and they're Berina newspapers, and they say, yeah, so what's your market? No, we're targeting so much. We are going to invest in your business. And you're going to get a share of 20% and you have 80%. So they come in form of equity. So then if you evaluate your company or your organization and you say it's that money. And it's always difficult, of course, if you're a trust and you're a community organization because you won't sell equity. But these guys also offer loans at low interest rate. If you have a business model, so that means you need to have a proper business model that works. And then they look at your model and they think that wow, this can actually make sense. So they will give you a loan and tell you that we're giving you a loan to start this. And after 2 years, we'll start getting back our money. I think the Mail and Guardian in South Africa is an example of the investment of the Media Development Fund, where the equity and all those kind of things. So then there is also what they call accelerators or incubation labs. And one thing that came into mind was a gem lab in South Africa funded by Open Society. What they do is that they work with startups to provide funding and training. So they will more like incubate you. And this is what is done by media hubs, some media hubs. They site, we sometimes have projects where we then say, we have $10,000 that we're going to use to incubate new ideas. So you get a startup that comes in and you support them in terms of space, in terms of the programming that they want to do. And after a year or so, your idea is that they are now capacitated enough to go and do their things. So the support or the model does not only necessarily come in form of money that comes into your bank. It can be, financial support. It can be capacity building. It can be provision of equipment. So there are a lot of accelerators that happen around the world where they will actually work with you to, you say, what's your financial sustainability model? And they'll take you through your model and make sure that they capacitate you to do the work that you do. And this is what most of us were talking about, or that we're looking at, the various revenue models that I want to talk about. So right now, what I've talked about donor funding, which is funding in form of the embassies, the different governments, international donor organizations, whether it's a media development fund, whether it's OSF, not OSF as such, embassies and USAID and all those kind of things. Then we have private funding foundations like Open Society, the Ford Foundation. These are people or the foundations that fund media development. So these are also some form of models of financial sustainability. But we agreed, we didn't agree, but what I pointed out was donor funding is never, sustainable in long term, because there's a time when the funding is going to dry up, and they always have a certain aim at that particular time. They always say, we are going to fund for this period because either there's been a government in transition, there's lack of democracy, there's poor they're focusing on. And if you happen to fall in that priority area, then you're going to get money. Then we also talked about the loans, that you can actually get loans or grants or equity. Then we talked about accelerators. Then at your level, in your organization, if you are running your organization, these are some of the things that I'm going to talk about that you can actually try in your organization. Remember, I said this is not a one size fits all, and there's no harm in trying. So the first one is sales, of course. And when I'm talking about sales, I'm saying to you, what are you selling? What products do you have that you can offer? If it's a newspaper, obviously they sell newspapers, they sell advertising space. If it's a community radio station, you are selling airtime, you are selling outdoor activations, roadshows. You're invited to come and live stream from a supermarket and you're paid. So what can you sell in your organization? What product are you offering? And this is the first having? What are you offering? What is the product that you are producing? And of what quality is that product? Is there anyone who's willing to get that product from you? So if you can answer that question, and if you can say, no, my product is 1, 2, 3, and then you can therefore find out who can buy advertising space, who can buy your magazine, if you're producing a magazine, who can buy the products that you're selling. So sales are one of the areas where you can make money. There is a whole lot of issues when it comes to membership. I've worked with, the last 3 months, I've been working with what we call the digital media startups in the Global South. And we're a group of guys from different countries, Peru, Indonesia, Singapore, all different, Kenya. And we are trying to find out how best the membership model can work. The idea is you already have a community. And in your community, they are happy to receive your information. So they are in your WhatsApp group. They are they like your Facebook page. They follow you on Twitter. They watch your videos on YouTube. And the question is, how can you monetize those people? So the first and foremost, how big is your audience? Where are they? Who are they? Have you ever studied your audience to find out the kind of people who listen to your content? How old are they? What do they do? What's their average income? So what if you have that kind of information, you can then come up with a membership form where you say, guys, producing content is difficult. So how about you become a member of NOSI, or you become a member of ZACRAS Community Radio. And what we're going to do is that for you, if you are a VIP or if you are a VIP member, you're going to pay us $50 a month or a year. And after VIP, we have something else, or you then put them in gold, bronze, platinum. You categorize your members, and each member is paying more and getting something out of it. So it can be also some form of the way you are saying to people that you work in your community. No, we want you to contribute to this plan that we're working. So if you get a membership card, we are going to give you a membership card, just like political parties or whatever. And for you to get this membership card, you join. I know community radio stations, when I was working for Radio Dialogue, we had this, what we call the ward committees and all those kind of things. And I know a lot of community radio stations, because they want to meet the criteria of being called members. So they have community members, the ward committees. So I have a card for a ward committee. And for every member then joins, and they have they are $2 or $1 or whatever, depending on your community. Those are your basic, and have a say on what goes to the station. You need to be a member of our community radio station. And that dollar, if you collect dollar from 50 people or 100 people, the money that you're going to get there is going to help you buy coffee for your guests when they come to the office, or pay something. With inflation, you can actually pay a lot of bills with $500 or $700. So what membership is there? Then you can then have the general membership that pays $1. You then have another level that pays $5. Another level, then in every community there are people from the diaspora. So the diaspora community then has their own set of membership, and they have their own fee, and they pay something. So membership is one thing that works, and it has worked with other countries and other areas. So it depends on your locality. Then we have subscription. Subscription is different from membership. It's where you are saying to people, you subscribe to get our news. So if I'm a community radio station and I'm free already, I'm live streaming. So say, okay, our news generally is free. But if you want in-depth news stories, if you want behind the scenes, if you want breaking news, if you want to receive a 10-page newsletter every week, subscribe. And our subscriptions are starting from $1 for a month, $2 for a year, blah, blah, blah. You come up with a subscription model. So that is another form of creating revenue. We then have advertising as well. We've talked a lot about advertising. That this is where I think the problem that we have with many of our media startups and our media businesses is either they're donor funded or they're depending on advertising. These are the two models that have been used for a long time. And we have seen that because of the COVID pandemic, advertising is declining. Even before COVID, advertising was declining for a lot of media houses because of the internet. So the newspaper that you used to read for $1, or why should I buy a newspaper? And because of that, many companies have now been shifting and advertising online, and the advertising revenue over years have been in decline worldwide. So it still works for other people, but there is a problem when it comes to advertising. Then there's the issue of sponsorship. Sponsorship can come in form of companies and NGOs. And let's say you are running a community radio station, and you've planned internationally in your community, and they are running a project on ending child marriages. So you can go to them and say, hi guys, you know what, we are a community radio station, we're a media startup, we reach 50,000 people a week. And these people are on our Facebook, they're on our WhatsApp, they give us feedback. So how about you actually, give us, how about you sponsor a program on ending child marriages? We have the community, we have the numbers, $100 a month or $100 a week. We are going to deliver your message to the people who want to hear it. So then Plan International sponsors a program on child marriages. You then go to another organization and they sponsor another program. You go to a company, you're ZACRAS. Hello, ZACRAS. We know you have launched a new brand of clothes, and we have millennials here, young people who like Instagram between the ages of 25 and 35. They're the working class. They can buy your clothes in a second, but they also identify with us. So your combination of your brand and our brand can actually push your product. So how about you run the music top 20, the Aside or Kula Sizwe or ZACRAS FM top 20 brought to you by ZACRAS every week. And we make them win 1 or 2 shirts and here and there, but you give us a fee. So then they sponsor your music show, they sponsor your ABCD, and you're making money out of that. There is crowdfunding where you are going to people and saying, we have a target of $10,000 to build a studio or to buy equipment. And so we are asking for money. You crowdfund from different people, individuals, which is almost similar. Crowdfunding is almost similar to donations, but donations can come from, a once-off, it can come from specific people, so crowdfunding, you can actually set up a GoFundMe page and you say, we are just appealing for $10,000 to buy ABCD. So, or you can go to people that you know who are from the community. If you are from Mutare, then you look for people who are from Mutare, who are in the diaspora, who are successful and those kind of things, and say, guys, we are in Mutare, you grew up in Mutare, we want to set up a community radio station, you need so much. How about you just give us whatever you have? And they give you once off and you do what you want to do. So crowdfunding would work for specific projects. So you can fundraise for a specific project. Then you have donations, where you also can identify people who can donate. Once dealt with this group that they were into cats. They loved cats. So it was more like a cat foundation, if I were to say. So they keep cats, they keep they pick stray cats and they feed them. So what they do, they identify cat lovers. They go on Facebook and look for everyone who loves cats. And they invite them to a meeting. It's a dinner or something, one evening, you go there, you sit, and these guys are just talking cats. So, we have, this year we have, rescued 50 cats, and some of them were malnutritioned, they are showing pictures. Some of them were malnutritioned, but we managed to feed them, they are like this. So for this organization to survive, each cat eats $5 a day. So we have 10 cats, we need $50 a day, then the month and the year. So our budget is $200,000 a year. Then you have these people who love cats saying, I love that cat. And I'm going to let's say 50. Then they pay $50 a month towards the upkeep of that cat. But we know when the food is bought, that cat won't eat alone. That cat will then also eat with people, because the people are going to get salaries. So you're basically getting cat money. So you're going to be paid a salary, not because you are important, because you're looking after cats. So the money belongs to the cat. If the cat was talking, it would say, no, please keep me nicely because it is me who's feeding you. So, but they've managed to identify the people who love cats, who are passionate about cats. And these people are willing to spend money on cats. So you also need to look for people who are passionate about what you do. Who is passionate about community development? Who is passionate about community radios? And how much can they donate? And once if you have these people in one room and make sure that they are on board of what you want to do, your vision, your objectives, your everything, and you're actually quite transparent about what you do, they're going to support you. And then them that the month of June we raised so much, we did A, B, C, D, include even your salaries. But then it is going to be a problem when you raise $5,000 and you pay 4,000 salaries. So you then need to know that whatever you collect, at least 20% should go to admin. That includes salaries. And 70% goes to objectives. You don't want to send a report where you took all the money and paid yourselves. Yeah, and I know I asked black people in cars. You went and bought a Lamborghini or a 4x4. You are now driving a Mercedes-Benz. And the person who actually donated to you is walking. So we should not be quick to buy big cars when we actually are not financially sustainable. This is what is being done by our government ministers in most African countries. They buy fast cars than when we don't have medication in hospitals. Right now, most African countries are struggling to get ventilators, but our ministers are driving 4x4s and Range Rovers. That Range Rover can buy 5 ventilators. So we have misplaced priorities from government level. Our media managers are also have misplaced priorities. You look at what they are buying with the money, and then you say, dear God, why did they get the money in the first place? So when we do get the money, let's use the money for the purposes that it's intended. And let's make sure that we invest back in the project so that it grows. Let's have a long-term plan. Think of the organization when you're gone. Think of the organization 5 years from now. Leave a legacy. When you have the opportunity to run that organization, make sure that you're creating something that is going to be forever. So donations can work. Then, of course, some people, what I have seen, they also write editorial comments for brands. There are people who have money, they want their brands to be known, but they don't have a marketing skill. So you go to them and say, no, we are running a media organization, we are running, this is our reach. So how about we promote your product? We write an editorial comment about the benefits of your product, ABCD, this will improve sales, and you're going to pay us so much, and every week we run an editorial on your product. So different people depending on their interests. I've seen other people doing consultancy as well, where if you have a pool of skills in your organization, you then agree that, guys, we are going to be training people in news writing, those who want to do news writing. And the one who trains gets 20% or 30%, and the rest comes to the organization. And you're going to be allowed to go and do this training during working hours. You then need to work with your staff to then say, when they go train, because they are using their skills, they're using their time, how much is coming to them, how much is coming to the organization. And once you have that skills base and the consultancy, you can then do everything, strat plan, policies, whatever people need. You can actually hire out services as well. Some people have PA systems, you do live streaming, church meetings, documentary production that I've written there. There are organizations who do monitoring evaluation, and they want to do a documentary on the successes of their projects. You go and do that documentary. Maybe they want people who can write their end of year report, and they want it nicely. They want consultants. You go out and get that consultants, and you make that money, and the certain percentage goes to the person who has done it, and the other percentage comes to the organization. So you are not depending. What we need with this business is different streams of income. You need to get money from different areas so that when there is COVID and you're not getting advertising, you can still consult online and make money. You can still sell a product. So once you have your eggs in one basket, if that basket falls, you are left with nothing. So we need to have multiple streams of income. Then other people have done. I'm disappointed that across Africa, basically, community radio stations have not taken the advantage of lockdown. I've seen the emergence of new media startups actually who are taking advantage of lockdown and doing events online. And they're making a bit of, if they're not making money, they're making a bit of publicity and a bit of name out of them. I've seen the likes of Passion Java and whoever funding the startups to run live shows. This is the time where you're actually supposed to be running live shows in your events online, practicing social distancing. But then you then get people can advertise, people want publicity. If the prophets are the ones with the money, why not ask them to run to fund you if they're going to get one or two converted people? But there are other people besides prophets who can actually, so live events are some of the things that people make money out of. So post-COVID as well, what kind of events can you do to make money out of it? Because you can create the networking online, but it is always the physical meeting that is going to be important. You need to meet the people that you interact with online so that they give you ideas, they can give you money and all those kind of things. So I think those are some of the issues that I wanted to talk about or that we can discuss. So I'll briefly go to chat before we open it for discussions and see if we have questions. So someone says, Kometu, for us, we have diversity sources of income revenue by opening up internet cafes, printing services, opening up listening clubs, other than relying on death announcements and talk shows. True. Someone says, is it, okay, someone says, is it possible to share the slides? Okay, I'll email them to ZACRAS and they can share it with you. If we have participants, kindly share your email addresses. Okay, that's ZACRAS. Okay, I think I'm seeing more of comments than questions. Anyone with a question? I think the ZACRAS guys can share that session on questions and comments.
Thank you, Zenzele, for that. I've just typed into the chat section to send a message in the chat section, or you can raise your hand. I see Odongo, you have raised your hand. Let me unmute you. Please go ahead with your contribution. Yes, Odongo, I have unmuted you.
Yes, thank you so much, Zenzele, for your wonderful presentation. Regarding the issue of advertising and then the issue of sponsorship, I am in Uganda. I work for Shine FM Radio. It's a community radio in Yam district, northern Uganda. We have had issues and problems with the Uganda Communications Commission, the UCC. This is a body that governs all the media houses. And sometimes back last year, they have written to us, limiting us for sponsorship in affects our revenue base. And I was asking, how will UNESCO help in curbing this situation with UCC, a body that governs all media houses? Then secondly, on advertising, it is true that advertising have gone low due to this COVID-19, just like community radios, which survive on radio announcement like this, institution announcement, NGOs, etc., etc. Now we are getting a lot of challenges now. How we shall get money to pay our workers. This is what I want you to, I put more highlights on. UNESCO, if you can come on board to let us know how we can come on to help in, because now COVID-19 has affected many businesses from the community radios. Thank you so much.
not sure whether UNESCO will come in there, but what is talking about also in terms of advertising, you know, if people are running community radio stations, some governments or other countries, they have limit in time on which community radio stations can advertise. So this is why I'm saying some of these things that I'm talking about would depend on the context and the country to say what works in your area and what cannot work in your area. And the bottom line is we need to try and find different models of getting money. If advertising doesn't work, what can we do? Can we have sponsorship programs? For how long? For how many minutes? Can we have people, you know, adopting a presenter? You know, you can have adopt a presenter to say, you know, people cannot advertise, but we then say, okay, we want to pay our salaries. We want to keep on giving you the news that we want. So we are starting a program called Adopt a Presenter. If the presenter is the morning show, we want you to adopt him and give him, you know, so much money. He needs so much money a month. And they pay the salary of a presenter rather than paying for content, whatever works. You know, it's like things have stopped. How can we do this local advert membership and events are not working? So in Tanzania, so COVID will really need us to think outside the box. We need to go to the basics. We need to go to the genesis. At the beginning, there was God, and God was with me, and was the Holy Spirit, and God was the Holy Spirit. So we need to go to the beginning of everything and say, we are at the beginning. What can we do? We are at zero. What can work? So we basically need to throw everything that we know out and start afresh. So let's look for new ways. Let's try new ways. They're not always going to work. Some might work, some might not work.
Okay, thank you, Zenzele. There was a question which was directed to UNESCO. Unfortunately, the UNESCO guys are unable to join us for today. They have another meeting, which is taking place at their offices. So chat section, I quickly send it to them and hear if they are able to feedback before we end this meeting. But my contribution, I also have a contribution directed to Zenzele, that here in Zimbabwe presently, our laws prohibit advertising on community radios. So unlike in other countries where there are thresholds, in our case, advertising has been totally banned. Apart from that, you find that also there are prohibitions were in relation to foreign funding when it comes to community media and broadcasting in general. So what would you propose as a way forward, either be it diversification of the funding basis, and also looking at Facebook, Twitter, what other ways can we exploit such platforms so that we're able to generate income through the content that we'll be posting? And I know an amount to either Facebook or Twitter so that they boost your content. Is that advisable or otherwise? Thank you, Seth.
Well, you talked about two issues there, which is first of all the using AdSense and Google advertising. You know, Google advertising works if you really have a lot of followers, because you find that probably with YouTube, they will tell you that for you to monetize your YouTube channel, you need to first of all have 5,000 people who have subscribed to your channel. Then from 5,000, you can then monetize your channel. And then with the websites as well, there's a certain number of people that they need to then you can put website adverts. But what I find, what people struggle with in Zimbabwe as well, you know, Zimbabwe is this funny country, you know, so people then find it difficult to use, oh, there's someone's mic who's on there. If you could mute your mic. To use Google Ads, because Zimbabwean cards are not taken. You know, you can't put a local bank or something like that. So this is where, so then you need someone with an account outside Zimbabwe to use. But if you have a good audience, you can make money out of advertising online. I know the reason why we have the rise of fake news is because other websites are running after hits. So if you have 1 million hits and Facebook is paying you 1 cent per hit, That means, oh, I mean, Google is paying you 1 cent per hit. That is a lot of money. Then you've also talked about advertising, that our Zimbabwean law doesn't allow advertising and donor funding. Well, there has to be a way around it. One of the things in advertising was talking about people adopting your presenters or announcements where people do sponsored programs. They pay. Then instead of advertising, they actually pay you to do a program around that area. You to do a program. World Vision pays you to do a program. It's not an advertising. I mean, it's a program. Where with donor funding, there are a lot of things that I can talk offline. I don't want to go on record, but there are a lot of things that can be done to bypass that loophole. Or I mean, in every law, there's a loophole that you can use to get your way around through ownership of the newspapers and I mean all sorts of things. Then there is also, you also mentioned whether it's good to boost your post. Yeah, it depends why you want to boost your post. If you are boosting your post because you want good readership, yes, it's fine. But obviously, you are not going to make money out of boosting posts. You're going to spend money. So you need to know why. Maybe you're boosting a post so that you get more audience, then you advertise and all those kind of things. There's no harm in doing that as long as you know what you want to do.
Okay, thank you so much, Zenzele. I note that Dennis also has raised his hand. Dennis, kindly go ahead with your contribution. Hello, Dennis, can you hear me? Okay, it appears Dennis is having challenges with his microphone. You can proceed, Zenzele.
I'm not sure whether there are any other questions here that people have asked.
Hello.
Yes, Dennis, please do go ahead.
Having a network problem. Now, my concern is we have a faith-based station, and in this case, they don't accept some of the material which is coming like from Ministry of Health, that them like messages.
Sorry,
So
sorry, Dennis.
this is another.
Sorry, Dennis, can you repeat the question? Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes, Zenzele.
Yes, madam. So I don't think there are any other questions that I can see here.
I'm seeing there's a question. I think Tonderai from Wejira, I'm not sure if you read it out. He or she is saying that how best do we as community radio stations position ourselves in writing editorial content for brands without compromising our major role of informing and educating our community without fear or favor?
That is, I mean, already companies are advertising for people. So when you are writing editorial comments, it doesn't mean that you are compromising your brand. It's the whole thing about advertising. So to say, because the policies do take advertising. If you are taking advertising, you are not taking advertising because you don't want to compromise your integrity, then it's another story altogether. But if people advertise and they come to you and say, we want to promote soap, but we don't know how to talk about this soap, then you write an editorial about soap. It is clearly labeled that this is an editorial, meaning it's an advert, but they pay for it. So the only problem when you compromise your principle or your ethics is when you hide an editorial as a news item. You know, you deliberately wrote an editorial, you were paid for it, but you don't mention that it's an editorial.
Okay, thank you. Then there is Dennis again. We have a concern about the faith-based station refusing material that promote family planning, yet this boosts revenue. How best can you advise?
Well, yeah, there are policies with the organization that they will not Someone can mute their mic that I can hear some song. So it's advertising. So someone, what I was saying is that some organizations have policies. I know organizations or media houses that will never get advertising from beer companies, no matter how much they are willing to pay them. A site when we started, we had a problem where there was a time when an influx of churches coming to say, can you come and live stream our content or our conference out? And at one point we made a decision that we're not going to live stream church meetings. Because today you are the apostolic faith, tomorrow is SDA, tomorrow is Catholic. They are all coming up with all sorts of messages that sometimes confuse our audience. So yeah, if the policy of the station is we are not taking family planning because we don't believe in it, there's nothing that you can do. That's what they believe in. You have to look for alternative content. I mean, alternative.
Leonard also has his hand up. Lenzo, kindly go ahead.
Yeah, I think you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you.
My opinion is we must look at things that are practically possible. Looking at the platforms that we are using, looking at the things that we do. I think it will be folly for us to focus on things that we cannot do. It's folly for us as Berina to expect that Rio Zim will come and advertise through a platform because possibly they think that they can utilize the media better by engaging ZFM or the Herald or any other bigger media house. So I think we must sort of brainstorm around how we can harness pay for us instead of dwelling on some other means that we cannot afford to do or that are practically impossible.
Maybe what I want to say to in response, like I said from this onset, this is not a one size fits all. I don't believe there is anything that is impossible. It's about pushing the boundaries and looking at what works in your context. And like I said from the onset, we are working with, I think we have over 14 or 15 organizations from different parts of the country with different sizes and different focus areas. So it is, you need to, like I said, in your locality, what works? So if you are dealing with rural communities, then you can forget about Facebook advertising and because probably they are not going to be there. If you are working in a very, very poor community where people barely $1 a day, subscription is not going to work. So you need to look at your community and say, what works? There are some people who say, no, what works for us is donor funding. And they're going to concentrate on donor funding and nothing else. And there are some people who are going to say, what works for us is advertising. And they're going to concentrate on that. So from the onset, it's not a one size fits all. And different areas are going to have different examples. But there is no harm in trying all these things because the thing is we don't know what works until we try it out and we find out that it doesn't work.
Okay. Thank you, Zenzele. I'm just trying to go over the chat. Okay, I'm not sure if you had read this this comment. I think just like state-owned radio and television stations who get government support or budgets, community radio stations must also fall under a similar act in the communities that we serve.
Yeah, well, then that depends with those people, different countries lobbying for financial help from government. I know in South Africa, they have the Media Development Fund that helps community radio stations with equipment, with funding here and there. So in different countries, I think they have different laws that govern the operations of community radio stations. And if you can lobby Parliament, then say community radio stations play a significant role and they need to get a certain percentage in their budgets. And people have, we have seen even here in Zimbabwe, private radio stations lobbying, saying that COVID has affected them. Can they get a tax reprieve or a once-off grant and all these forms of things? So if community radio stations in different countries can lobby government to set aside funds, that's fine. But they should know that once government then gives you money, probably there goes your independence. So you need to work on what.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any other comment or question, but there is a question that came through from Odongo, which I'll direct to UNESCO, where we were saying, yes, I was on the issue of sponsorship. In Uganda, we have a body that governs all media houses, but last year they wrote to us that no sponsorship for news and other programs, which has affected the revenue base for community radios in Uganda. So the question to UNESCO was, how will UNESCO come to the rescue? How will UNESCO come on to rescue this situation? Yet we have companies, NGOs who want to support community radios. So I've shared the question with UNESCO and hopefully they will respond, which I'll also proceed to share with Odongo and any other colleagues. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments, Zenzele. So I'm not sure if you have any other additions.
Not necessarily. I think all what I can say is that we need, this is a process. We need to, sometimes we are very comfortable in saying things don't work when you've never tried them. It's easier to say, no, this will never work. It's easier to just fold our hands and say, no, we tried it. Sometimes you try something this year and it doesn't work, and you can try it again and someone will try it and it will work. So let's go out and try different things. Above all, I think we need to really understand our organizations. Who are we serving? Who is our audience? Who can give us money? Who's willing to support us? If we have all those things, I'm sure we'll come up with a sustainable model. But also we need to ask ourselves, what kind of model do we want to use now, next year, a year before? It doesn't mean that you need to, if you have money now, it doesn't mean that next year you might not need advertising, you might not need subscriptions. So it'll be easy to start looking for subscriptions now when you do have the money. And then tell people that if you join, the first year is free. Then you start paying next year. And if you have 100 people who have joined in for free, and they are satisfied with their content, when next year they are supposed to renew, they are going to renew because they see value. So we don't have to wait until we have no donor funding, then we then try and say, guys, let's ask people to subscribe. Because if it's all of a sudden that people are used to free content, then the next time we ask them about membership, then they're going to have a problem. Same applies with membership. You can ask people to be members today and tell them that the next 6 months, membership is free. But after 6 months, you're then going to pay $1 or $2 or $3. So people should be used to getting paying for the services that they receive. Why should we spend so much time and resources gathering for news, then we always describe them for free? So, or give them for free. So we need to work at these models and apply them bit by bit until we need to think long term. We need to wake up in the morning when everything has been free, then you start saying to people they should start paying. It won't work. I think on that note...
sorry, Zenzele. On that note, unfortunately, there are 2 questions or comments that have come through. The first one is from Stambuli. He's asking, how does income generating projects come in on funding community radios? And do you have models that we can copy from? This is a question directed to you, and possibly participants from other countries can also assist. Stambuli is based here in Zimbabwe, so he's asking, how does income generating projects come in on funding community radios, and are there any other models that can be followed? There's also Amua, who says every place people say that there is no money due to okay, I'm not sure if this is the same question that you read out.
Yeah, I read that one.
Okay, no, that's fine. So yeah, there is that one from Stambuli.
that do community projects. I know, I mean, Europe is another area, in America is another area. I won't use examples from there. But I know community radio stations that do, you know, what you call chicken breeding. They do cattle feeding, they do goats, they do gardens. They do small community projects and they make money. You know, the ideal situation about community radio stations is a small community that probably has a budget of about 20,000 or less a year. So community radio stations, the typical community radio stations, some of them, they really don't have a huge budget. So they'll be having 5 to 8 people who run them, and they have a monthly budget of about 8,000 or 5,000 US dollars sometimes. So they can actually sell vegetables. If you have 100 heads of cabbages, selling them at $1, you're going to make $100. And you find that out of the vegetables that they sell, they're able to pay electricity, they're able to pay their phone call, their telephone. Small appreciation gifts for staff. Others then go to bigger projects like cattle railing, you know, feeding cattle and selling them. So these community projects work, but they need someone. We cannot expect a reporter to go and feed chickens, then come and read news. So you need a system whereby you have volunteers who are actually running these projects. And also you need serious financial models and accountability, that the money that is raised from these projects is not abused by the station manager or by the board. It would actually be taken back to the project, and it's known by everyone that this month we raised so much and this money was used for ABCD. So these projects work where there's accountability and a market for them.
Okay, thank you so much, Zenzele. I think there being no other questions or comments, we can bring the meeting to an end. A comment from Cooksman: the presentation was clear, hence we have no questions. I think, yeah, I agree with you so much for taking us through the 2-day training session, and also for indicating that you are available to assist those who might want further assistance on the training material that you presented on. Colleagues, thank you so much for finding time to attend the training for Tuesday, and the latest being for today. That is very much appreciated. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to share the training material from Zenzele, the PowerPoint presentations that he did. Possibly, Zenzele, if you can put your contact details in the training material so that those who would want to ask questions or seek further clarification can definitely get in touch. So we'll share the training presentations and also the recordings on the email addresses that you sent us. And as I indicated on Tuesday and today also, East and Southern Africa. So we'll be sending out invitations. So once you accept, you'll be able to access the training material, including recordings for webinars that we have previously held, and also future webinars that will be held. So colleagues, once again, thank you so much. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to also engage anyone from ZACRAS. I see that Zenzele has also sent his contact details for email, which is vayete@yahoo. Okay, sorry, he sent 2 panelists. Let me just quickly copy and put on the chat group for everyone to access. So it's vayete@yahoo.co.uk, and on Twitter it's @Zenzele. He's also on Facebook as Zenzele Ndebele. So thank you so much once again. We will now close.